Elsewhere, Myer has reportedly banned staff Christmas parties in December, telling workers that they must postpone any festive season celebrations until the new year. The Christmas party ban will apply across all of Myer's department stores.
Yeah, this might be coming as you're preparing for your own Christmas party for work, are you? Well, joining us now is Shivani Gopal, founder of The Remarkable Woman, and corporate communications expert Jeff Elliott. I know you both have interesting views on this one. Jeff, I'd like to start with you though, because I can't decide if reputationally at the moment, tough times for retailers, you know, the lack of trust in business generally, is it a good or bad look to actually cancel a Christmas party?
Well, there's no doubt Myer is facing some austerity measures currently. In fact, they cancelled the birdcage marquee earlier this year as well, so there won't be that at the Melbourne Cup tomorrow. Look, you know, I was actually thinking about this story in terms of its, you know, why is it resonating?
Yeah.
And you know, interestingly, Sydney Myer, who was the founder of Myer, was very big on Christmas and Christmas parties. In fact, I was, as you do, happened to be reading the Melbourne Argus from Christmas Eve 1930, and he actually had a Christmas party for 10,000 people for the unemployed and the destitute around the time of the Great Depression. Right. So I think it's interesting to think about the heritage of these things and why they might resonate. He was you know, founder of Myer, converted from Judaism to Christianity. So it was very big on Christmas. Yeah. So here we are, you know, fast forward all these years later, and they've cancelled the Christmas show. I think there's some of that in this reaction from staff as well. So look, you understand why they're doing it, but I think it is a tricky one.
I mean, they were saying it was all about customers. What do you think, Shivani?
I think it's a crying shame, especially from the staff's perspective. I totally get the austerity measures, and from a numbers crunch perspective, I would get that. But the interesting thing is, they said they're cancelling, then they said, oh no, we're not cancelling it, we're going to do it in January, and we're doing it for staffing reasons because we want everyone to be there for the trade.
Yeah, I saw that, but I didn't get.
I don't understand that either, because it was apparently supposed to be for a focus on customers and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, and it doesn't make sense because let's take the philosophy of Richard Branson, right? If you want to take care of your customers, take care of your staff first. Now, Christmas parties are a great way to reward your staff members, to show them that you have a little bit of loyalty towards them, and for them to be able to bond with each other. So if staffing really is their priority, having a cultural, iconic Christmas party that Myer would no doubt put on, will give staff the ability to have something to look forward to bond, but also to actually retain better talent and attract new talent. So it's really quite ironic that they're saying they're doing it for the customers, they're doing it for staffing across December. Those things could have been better managed through rostering, one would think.
Yeah, but there's more than one stakeholder, right? Because you know, the shareholders are suffering because they've been sticking with this stock, and it's been pretty difficult year. So that, you know, it's good. I mean, if I was a shareholder, I'd say, yeah, damn right, you'd cancel your Christmas party, maybe.
Look, the birdcage cancellation was a message to the market, if you like. For Christmas parties themselves, look, I guess one thing is that, you know, what do these big retailers have over the online retailers, and that's people and service. So you know, I think you know, if you're upsetting your staff, it is a tricky one to manage.
And to Brooke's point as well about the shareholders there, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because as we know, Myer has had a rough couple of years, and so have a lot of other big companies. But I mean, what if next year is just a little bit better? Can you bring it back then? I mean, how much do the tides have to turn before you then reward customers and say, look, yeah, last year was a bit of a write-off, but let's have a party this year, you know?
And I'm thinking, Shivani, you think, you know, rewarding good times and bad, keep them on side, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you are going to take something away, you've got to manage the change management process and communication a lot better than getting into November and saying, hey, guess what, guys? I know it's been a long, tough, hard year. Thanks for bearing with us. We've had some, you know, tough times in sales, and guess what? No Christmas party. Oh, okay, fine, we'll have it in January. If you're not going to have it, don't have it, and then actually save the money. And if you're not going to do it, manage that better and have other ways to reward your people, whether it be, you know, monthly rewards or smaller parties and get-togethers and you know, what do they call them? Leaderboards and all that sort of stuff. But you need to do something. You can't just sort of take it off the table altogether, because your staffing, your retention, your morale, your productivity, all of those things, engagement will suffer.
Could you, Jeff, I mean, from a corporate communications perspective, could you envisage a situation right now where a company could get a big PR win by saying we've cancelled the Christmas party? Like I'm thinking
I think
banks and life insurers,
yeah,
you know, gone through the Royal Commission.
Well, you certainly don't want to be having sort of ice sculptures and water fountains at Christmas parties if you're in financial services at the moment. Look, I think you know, it's a bit twixt and between moment for Myer. I mean, I think if they had had a big Christmas party and there were social media, you know, video of that all over the website, people having a great time, people might be thinking, well, hang on, you know, what's going on? The shareholders would be wondering what's going on. So.
And from a corporate perspective, is it quite an easy one to cut because things go wrong at Christmas parties, and you know, it can be a bit.
And you know, the Me Too movement, that's changed a lot of this as well. There's just that extra level of worry for employers, I think, as well.
Yeah, from an HR perspective. Yeah.
And again, I think that's where the perspective and the interpretation of Me Too has gone really wrong, because Me Too is there to raise awareness and has raised awareness on the wrongful actions of a few, or quite a lot, I would say, but also has shined the light on greater responsibility for leaders and put into place greater accountability. So the wrongful behaviours are the things that should change, not the benefits and you know, great get-togethers and employee boosts like Christmas parties. So those are the wrong things to change, I would say.
Oh, definitely. But there's always been this mentality around Christmas parties as being the time that you cut loose. So what if you do shift that into January and say it's not a Christmas party, it's a staff party? Do you kind of sidestep some of the issues with the area?
Yeah, sure, but then again, communication and better change management. So you would say it around June, for example, you know, we're now nearing off to the next 6 months. This is what we're going to do, this is what we're looking forward to. By the way, in January, we'll have our get-together then, and we'll plan for the new year. We'll team build, we'll bond, and we'll move from there. Don't say it in November.
And actually, tomorrow night we are talking about the planning from a legal perspective and what companies need to do.
So you mean the sort of 10-page memo before you can have a Christmas party?
Basically, what do you need to tell people?
Times have changed.
That's so true from Sydney Myers days. That's for sure.
Right.
That's for sure.
That's right.
Guys, there was another story that came across the desk today, which was really interesting. It was about SUV sales. So today we had the overall car sales numbers, which were interesting. But the most interesting part, by far, was that SUV sales have hit record highs, and that, of course, is despite petrol prices at their high levels recently. So, I mean, I don't know, is this something that you kind of expected? Do you see more SUVs around? Would you want one more than you used to? Is this a surprise, Jeff? What do you think?
No, I think the recreational market and people's lifestyle expectations have changed a lot. I think SUVs have become much more user-friendly, so that, you know, some of them are much smaller than they used to be. I mean, back in the day, you know, there used to be the Mosman, used to be the Mosman tractors or the Toorak tractors.
Yes.
And people used to criticise people that own four-wheel drives because they never had any mud on the mudguards. That doesn't happen anymore. You know, SUVs have become a commuter car and a fleet car, so they're very popular with fleet management as well, because they've got more interior space, and people are moving more stuff around, I think.
Very versatile. As you say, some of them are different sizes. I've seen some out there that are really just tall hatchbacks. Yeah,
and I think the studies show that elevated driving positions is something that consumers really like as well. And I think also you've got that demographic change where older folk are really far more active, and so, you know, in the active lifestyle space, you know, roof racks on an SUV.
Yeah, Shivani, what do you think? 500,000 SUVs sold in the year to October. Amazing number.
Yeah, the numbers are really quite surprising. I mean, you know, globally SUV sales have risen by around 12%, whereas other cars have only risen by around 3%. So the numbers are, you know, and the gap is really quite huge. And then I think back to myself and go, yeah, I'm probably the kind of person that Jeff's talking about. I live in the inner city and I drive an SUV, and there is never any mud on my car. Yeah, I never take it off-road. Unless, you know, actually no, we to date not gone off-road. So, you know, so there's that, but they're roomier, they're more comfortable, and petrol prices I think are rather relative as well, because, you know, people are looking at a car going, well, I'm buying it for more luxurious reasons, therefore I've got a price point that I can afford, therefore the petrol price is probably you know, something that I can take within my budget hit at this point in time.
There's an efficiency to SUVs now too that wasn't the case 20 years ago with the you know, the Range Rovers and the tractors.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily the yuppie car that we used to talk about. It's just the stock standard. It's the new normal, as we like to say in economics and finance. Now, we have another great story, the true cost of having an iPhone. So there's been a valuation company who's worked out on your typical smartphone costs and usage patterns. Okay, this is in the US, but we'll apply it to Australia for the sake of the argument. Your kids would end up spending a staggering $75,000 each on their phones. But wait, there is more. Think about the opportunity cost of that. For your kids to spend $75,000 on a phone, the opportunity cost, they reckon, in the true lifetime of your kid's lifetime is $300,000. So $300,000 is what we're ultimately forking out just to have that thing in our pocket where we can type hello, hey, and hello, there it is, as the vision's showing right now. Wow, does that make you rethink the iPhones that we carry around and think are so essential?
Just reaffirms the family expenditure in my household on iPhones. So,
bleeding you dry, and now you just realised by how much.
We've been through so many iPhones in our house because they either get lost, stolen, broken, whatever.
Smashed.
So, and look, I think the interesting thing for Apple is that they're moving from, well, they've still got their hardware obviously in the phones themselves, but moving into more the service orientated aspects of their service, and that includes things like iTunes and music. And we're big subscribers to that in our household anyway. We're spending a fair bit, but Apple has such a lock on the Australian market. It's 45% of market share for smartphones, which is disproportionately much higher than anywhere else in the world. So
yeah, it's a lot of money. There's no doubt about it. $300,000 over your lifetime, that's a lot. $75,000 on the actual hardware itself, that's a lot. But you use it all the time. I mean, you're on the phone.
Exactly.
I mean, we see the amount of times you unlock them, the amount of times you use them. I get that there are other smartphones in the market. It's not just about iPhone, but really, I don't think I'm going to swap, despite those numbers. Shivani, what do you think?
I'm really with you on this one, Chris, because I think of it the other way around, and I think about the time saving or the time cost, if you want to put it the other way, that an iPhone provides you with, and also the productivity uplift. So on my iPhone, of course, I've got my email that I'm constantly on. Sorry, everyone, I'm constantly on my iPhone. And then, of course, you've got all the apps that will give you any information that you want. And so I think that an iPhone is a necessary expense, or a smartphone. I'm also an iPhone person. But let's have a think about where the money's going as well. So a lot of that goes into the carrier cost, the money that we're spending. And you fast forward, say 20 years ago, we were spending a lot of carrier costs on mobile phones anyway, but we were just simply paying for our telephone bills. Now we've got a carrier cost with a smartphone that gives you email, that gives you internet, that gives you all the apps you could possibly want, and you're actually productive. You can be on a commute for an hour and get a whole bunch of work done. Now think about the time cost that is then saving you. You've got more time with your family, you're getting more work done, and the added economic benefits of that. So I'd say it's money well spent. Granted, I don't have kids, Jeff, so I probably don't have your house bill.
Well,
I can probably say it that way.
I did the numbers. So monthly cost over 50 years plus service charges for access. I got to close to $300,000 in raw numbers.
Ouch.
Yeah, so there you go. About over 50 years, but it's like complaining about the electricity bill, right?
I know.
It's a must-have, and it's the way of the future.
You're right, but we did just finish talking about new SUV sales. So maybe what if we all dialed it back and drove a 10-year-old Camry and invested that money? I mean, you could kind of do it with any major purchase, right? I mean, in a way, we're picking on iPhones, but
I'm not going back to my Holden Kingswood.
You would have looked awesome.
That'd be good. I'd love to see that.
You'd have to ditch the suit and the tie and the whole.
Maybe, yeah.
No nostalgia of snakes for you or anything like that.
That's right. Well, there is actually that trend on Nokias now, so they've become popular again.
I know, I was saying these. Remember,
and the battery life is like a week.
The battery life is way better than it used to. Remember when you had to spend 25 cents for every single text message?
Yeah, that's right.
And you had to get it down to the character number so you didn't go over and it cost you 50 cents. Oh, it's come a long way. Do you remember that? That was the good old days. Thank you very much, Shivani.
Thank you.
And Jeff Elliott, Shivani Gopal. Appreciate your time, guys. Great to see you.